Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. Probably about 15 or more years ago, we had a seminary student here at Redeemer. During the first 2 years of seminary, you are assigned to work a few hours a week in a local congregation to begin getting your feet wet in various aspects of ministry. You get some experience being up front, leading worship, doing a few visits, attending a church council meeting, and so on. Since Redeemer is fairly near our local seminary, we often have a student learning the ropes this way. In those days, the students were asked to do a project. In other words, to develop some program or ministry and put it in place in the congregation. Interestingly, it doesn't really matter whether or not the program succeeds. You can learn from failure too. Anyway, we had this student, and for her project, she developed a tour of our sanctuary and presented it to various groups as they learned a lot about where we worship. It's a project I have held on to. And so a tour of Redeemer's sanctuary is what I plan to offer you this week. Now, you might not be a member here at Redeemer, but most of what I'll talk about you will be able to apply to your own congregation or to other sanctuaries you have been in and seen. I suspect you will find this very interesting, and I believe knowing some of what I will share this week will enhance your worship in your own sanctuary. And I think you'll be surprised at the depth and meaning behind what you have taken for granted so often. So, let's start at the doors of the church. But before we enter the doors to the sanctuary itself, we need to talk about that area where you first enter the church building. We call this area the narthex. That might seem like an odd word, and in fact, we don't really use it much nowadays. It's a place of gathering, a place to transition from our everyday world into worship. In our narthex, we greet one another in joy, but we are also supposed to gather ourselves for the transformative experience we are about to have in worship. The narthex is also the place where liturgical processions form. The processional cross, the choirs, the pastors all get ready for entering worship in the narthex. Just inside the doors to the sanctuary here at Redeemer, we have our baptismal font. We have that font right at the doors because baptism is how we enter the church, the family of God. It's a reminder of that whenever we enter our worship space, and we keep water in the font. Some dip their finger in the water and make the sign of the cross on their foreheads as they enter or leave to remember their baptisms. Now, it is a bit inconvenient to have the font at this location when we actually have a baptism during worship, so we move it to the front so the congregation can be more a part of what is happening. Many baptismal fonts, like ours here at Redeemer, are hexagonal, or six-sided, to represent the sixth day of the week when Christ was crucified, are octagonal, with 8 sides to represent the 8th day when the resurrection happened. Here at Redeemer, the font used to have a cover over it, but we have removed that. Covers were traditional because in medieval times, people stole the water, believing it had magical powers. Standing beside our font is the Paschal candle. The Paschal candle symbolizes Christ's Easter triumph over the darkness of sin and death. It also reminds us of the pillar of fire and smoke that led the people of Israel at the Exodus out of slavery in Egypt, a clear action of God to save God's people. The use of Paschal candles goes back to the 400s, and typically this candle is very large to remind us of the magnitude of Christ's victory. Some were so large that they weighed over 300 pounds. The Paschal candle is by the font to link our baptism to Easter and to Christ. We light it whenever there is a special focus on Jesus, like in the Christmas and Easter seasons, and whenever there is a baptism or a funeral. The candle reminds us of Christ's victory for us and the gift of salvation. There are also symbols on the Paschal candle that have meaning too. Here at Redeemer, our candle features a cross with an Easter lily to point to the resurrection and life. Above that is an Agnus Dei, a lamb signifying the victorious risen Christ. And below that cross is a grape cluster, inviting us to be fruitful. So, that's where we will stop for today. In Redeemer's Sanctuary, you are about 3 feet inside the doors at this point, and already we have proclaimed Christ and Christ's victory for us in several ways. We're only getting started. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.